Something that has been really helping myself personally and some of my students in singing higher or at least vocalizing higher is this concept of release. Now, I know other teachers may have used this term before, with a slightly different meaning or maybe in a slightly different context. But today I want to share with you my personal interpretation of this and hopefully in a way that's actually helpful to you and actually helps you understand this more. And then I'll also share with you, of course, how to explore this in a simple exercise at the end. So make sure you stay right there. Now, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan. I'm a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world over Zoom. And really on this channel, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So if that is up your lane, consider subscribing wherever you're joining me from. If you're interested in improving your voice with less of the headaches, I've also got some links down in the description on how to work with me privately, but I also have a self-study program that you can work through in a step 1, step 2, step 3 manner. If you're interested in inspiring our next episode, just let me know down in the comments below what you'd like me to talk about next. Okay, let's lay down some groundwork. This is going to be important as we dive deeper into the episode, especially the application part. Have you ever wondered how our voice actually sings higher? And so to make a higher pitch, there are muscles that need to activate and engage that stretch and they thin out the vocal folds. Think of it like a rubber band. And when the vocal folds get stretched and they thin out, it creates more tension in the cords, which allows them to vibrate faster. So this is one set of the muscles. Now there's also another set of muscles that encourage the cords to come together when they're activated. And the more that they're engaged, the more the vocal folds come together. Okay, now that we've laid down the groundwork, let's talk about the typical problem with range. Typically when someone is singing and they haven't necessarily found correct singing technique, there's a common sensation of this buildup of pressure, buildup of effort, and even sometimes buildup of strain as we go up our range. Now, what I think is cool is we can actually use this to our advantage, because what this means is if our technique is more correct, then we shouldn't actually have to feel this build up of pressure, this build up of like tension in the voice. The voice would kind of feel a lot more even, kind of similar to like your lower notes. And if anything, for some of us, we might actually feel this feeling of release in the pressure, or the voice gets a bit more kind of squishy feeling as you go up higher. But there is a problem. Typically when I'm working with students, I find that there is 2 ways to kind of release the pressure. And this comes back to a lot of the groundwork that we talked about earlier. The first one is when the vocal folds stretch and they thin out, and we feel a bit of like, easing up, a bit of release in the pressure this way. This is correct. The second one is when the chords come apart. They start to loosen up, and some people might even break or flip into falsetto. This is not what we're looking for. And sometimes it's really a combination of both. They stretch a bit, but then the chords also kind of come apart, and we kind of get into this kind of clumsy coordination. So in a sense, a really good question we need to be asking in our singing practice is, how do I distinguish the feeling of release and pressure from the stretching of the vocal folds to when they come apart? How do they feel different? Okay, so let's see if we can explore this difference in an exercise together. Now, for today, I'm going to be using a nay on an octave arpeggio. So we're going to do something like this. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Now, frankly, any sound or any exercises can work, but you might find some a bit easier. So you might need to explore a bit, but when in doubt, just kind of start with these nays. Now, let's highlight the first kind of type of release and pressure, which is the chords coming apart, right? They're coming apart, and then more airflow comes through, less resistance on the chords. And the easiest way to think about this is we're just going to flip into falsetto on the top note. Nay, 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 nay. Now, I just feel like the chords kind of give up, or there's a bit of a release in the kind of pressure that way. Now, some of you might have less of a prominent flip. You might do something more like nay, 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 where it's a bit more kind of like less kind of apparent. But just notice that there is this feeling of release in pressure, but it's because the chords are coming apart. Another way to kind of tell is that the quality of the voice just kind of changes as well. It loses a bit of the presence, the strength. It just sounds a bit weaker too. So experiment here and just see if you can notice that first of all. Because in step 2, we're going to see if we can find a feeling of release in pressure that's not this. Now, how we're going to do this is we're going to go through the exact same pattern, the exact same scale, exact same word, everything the same. But this time you have to maintain that speaking closure, that speaking pressure, that speaking kind of quality or effort the entire way. No more, no less. And it'll sound a bit like this. Nay, 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 nay. Now, what are some things to be looking out for? as I'm going through the scale, the first thing is notice it doesn't go nay, 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 nay. There isn't this kind of suddenly abrupt change in quality or releasing pressure from the chords coming apart. The chords generally stay together in that speaking kind of closure, and that's why we go for that. But at the same time, I do feel this feeling of the voice kind of releasing in a certain way. The voice kind of like eases up a tiny bit, and I notice the voice just kind of tilt up and forward a tiny bit. Now, you don't have to feel the exact same sensations. As long as you don't feel an increase in pressure, I think that's going to be a pretty good spot to start off with. Because if you can find that, then all you need to do is just keep extending that to get a bit higher. Nay, 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 nay. You can almost just hear the voice kind of like changing gears. There's a bit of a shift in the pressure on the voice. And that is exactly what we're after. We want to see if we can find this feeling because that's a pretty good chance that your technique is pretty clean. As long as you know that this release in pressure doesn't come from nay, 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 the chords coming apart. Now, one more thing. For some of you, you might notice that, you get this exercise, you find this kind of feeling of release and pressure, and you're like, wow, this is really, really good. Now, what can happen though is you'll notice when you go to a song, it might not necessarily translate. You might find that, oh, wow, when I go to a song, I still kind of hit the same kind of roadblocks. This is very normal. There is a process that we need to go through to build from a scale like this into something that is in a song. Now, if this is you and if you're interested in learning how to do this, right, highly recommend checking out episode 222. This is where I show you how to kind of build from places where you're already finding correct technique. Anyway, I hope you found this episode useful. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review. This really helps the podcast grow. If you're on any other social media platform, a like, comment, subscribe always really, really helps. Now, remember, if you're feeling a bit confused, if you're feeling a bit lost, even after some of these videos, just know that is normal. And just know that you don't have to do this on your own. This is why I offer private lessons over Zoom. So if you're interested in that, links down in the description. I'd love to see if I can help you. Apart from that, my name is Ivan. I'm your voice teacher. I'll see you next week. Take care.